Hello and welcome to another edition of the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we got a great time planned for you this evening. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick stop over in Paradise and check in with my buddy Craig Sutton. I just got to have my marlin fixed. I'm sorry, we can't get rolling until I've got it. Then we're going to hit Florida. We'll start up in the northeast corner, check in with Captain David Voorhees, work our way down the east coast, up the west coast, and out the Panhandle, getting the best fishing reports from the best anglers in each area of the state. Gosh, it's good to check in with the guys and see what's going on. I tell you, I'm down in Stuart this week, and it is wonderful down here right now. The sailfish bite is full on, and I understand that there's been a few other bites that have been full on around the state, so let's get rolling with it. And as always, this podcast and every podcast is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. By Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Let's get started with Captain Craig Sutton over in Nosara Paradise Rentals. Craigie, how are you?
I'm good, Captain Ricky. How you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing fine now that I'm talking to you. What's going on with the fishing?
I know I sound like a broken record, but it's been insanely good.
Good.
We got last week, not only we got some of those big dolphin, we've done big mahi, but we also caught 3 really nice roosters. A double sailfish released on the 20th adventure. Marlin, good catch of marlin all week long. It's been great.
Oh,
it's
man.
absolutely fantastic.
You know, I'm down at Pirates Cove in Stuart, and I was talking to a guy at the little tiki bar there, and he said, well, I really want to get my boys a marlin, you know, and golly, I hate to pay the prices to go to the Bahamas and this. I said, dude, you're taken care of. Don't worry. I got your spot. But so look for one William Myers and his boys to be coming over there and seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And Ricky, the marlin bite, especially since the last of May, and it always is better, but this year has just been fantastic. I mean, fantastic. It really is.
Well, Craig, here's the thing that should appeal to Americans and tourists in general. If you rent a house in the Bahamas for $8,000 for a week, a 4-bedroom house, it's yours. And if it's blowing, which you and I know this year, there's a good chance it's going to be, it's still yours, Bubba. But, how many days have you lost in the last year because of weather?
Well, we haven't lost one day yet. Now we did. Now about a week and a half ago, we came in early on a day, and then we took him back out for another few hours. But he was in the 23 boat. All the other boats fished that day, and the guy was a little uncomfortable for him. So that's fine. But now we probably between now and the end of August, we may lose 1 or 2 days.
Sweet. That's really sweet. That's fantastic. All right, Mr. Craigie, I'm counting the days till I'm down there. I'm going to stay down here and play with those silly sailfish till I get there.
All right, brother. Sounds good.
Thanks, Craig. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. All right, now we get to make our first stop in Florida. We're going to swing up to Jacksonville and check in with none other than Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good deal. How's the bite going this week? You got a little westerly wind up there.
We've got a westerly wind with a minus tide for this full moon, so it really, really pushed the water out today. And on top of all of that, we've had well over 2 inches of rain in the last couple of days. We got more rain today. It looks like we've got the next 2 days, we got 80% chances of rain. So we got a lot of rain. What does that mean? It means a lot of muddy water, Ricky. I mean, it is chocolate milk right now, very, very muddy. And the best way to fish muddy water is you really have to use the scented bait, the live bait, the baits that are going to smell. These fish are not going to see your lures. They're not going to, the water's that muddy. So you really need to get out there. You got to fish slow. I like the higher tides when it gets muddy like this. I prefer the higher tides. That tends to give you some cleaner water. But it was so bad today. We really didn't see that clean water, even on the high tide. I did sneak back in a couple of creeks down around the JTB area, and for some reason they tended to be a little bit cleaner in there. I don't know why that is, Rick. I think mainly because of the certain amount of clay in there, we don't get that muddy runoff that we might get in some of these other creeks. But we did find some reds back in the creeks at low tide, and on this full moon, guys, you've got to really be careful of these low tides, especially if we get some good west winds. We probably saw a low tide today well over a foot below normal.
Boy, that keeps you out of a lot of places, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it did. But, today we got in there, and we knew once we got in, we weren't getting out. So we basically had to sit in there and wait for the tide to turn to get out of some of these creeks. But it ended up paying off. Now, I am seeing some nice flounders, some nice numbers of flounders, and they tend to be stacking up on that higher outgoing tide at the mouth of the creeks. I think, Rick, when these tides are getting as low as they're getting, these fish are bugging out of these creeks a lot earlier than they do when the tide's not as low. They tend to wait to the last minute to get out of these creeks. But some of these creeks we saw today, I'm talking they had dried up to nothing but a trickle of water coming out of these creeks. So at the higher end of these tides, we are seeing flounder and trout, not so much. They don't tend to like this muddy water. Where they're going, I don't know, but I didn't find any the last couple of days.
Gotcha. Yeah, I tell you, it's certainly different conditions. Hey, David, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Of all the fisheries that you fish for, and you run a 12-month-a-year service, I know, what's your favorite? What would you rather do than anything else?
Well, I mean, my favorite is actually, believe it or not, I mean, you're going to laugh at this, and it's sad because I really don't get to do it as much as I would like to, but I think the triple tail is one of the most underrated fish that we have, and the reason I like it so much is, to me, it's a perfect fish for the fly rod.
Mm-hmm.
If I lived in an area like along the Gulf Coast or some of the places that had a really good triple tail population, man, you'd see me out there all the time with my fly rod chasing these fish. They're a fantastic fish on a fly rod. If you've never caught one on a fly rod, they love a little shrimp pattern. They love shrimp. They love being around buoys. You see almost every triple tail I've ever caught, I've actually seen it first and threw to it and caught that fish. So, I really think the triple tail, and as far as the fight goes, as far as the table food, as far as everything, it is to me one of the misknown sport fish in Florida. And when people catch on, I think unfortunately it's going to be another fish that's going to get hammered pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's already happening. Cap, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Same bat channel, same bat station, buddy.
You got it, Captain. David Voorhees from right there in Jacksonville, Florida. And I can give you the offshore report from there right now. It's not very good. This west wind has pushed a lot of muddy water offshore. Now you get out closer to the Gulf Stream and the current is kicking it. It is really running hard to the north, and that has made even bottom fishing in the deeper water more difficult. All right, let's cruise down the state a little bit and see what Captain Jim Ross is up to. Jim, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Rick, how are you doing this
I'm
week?
doing great, buddy. I'm doing great. Down in Stewart with the grandkids, having a big time. Tell me how your fishing's going.
Well, it's been pretty good. Last day or so, though, it did slow down just a little bit. Fight seems to be a little bit later in the day. First thing in the morning, the fish don't really seem to want to cooperate too much. But, as fishing goes, those things will change. And, eventually they'll start biting in the morning and then not in the afternoon again. So, it's one of those things where you just have to be on the water. And if you're on the water and you got baits in the water, you're going to catch fish. We got some tarpon that are running up and down the beach between Sebastian and Ponce right now. Also some tarpon inside. the guys that are fishing around the bridges there, the North and South Causeway bridges at Smyrna, and then also at the jetty, seem like they're doing pretty good on the tarpon, especially at night. The beach fish are all hitting, menhaden, pilchards, the usual stuff, and the ones that are inside seem to be hitting croakers more. The exception to that is the fish on the outside will hit croakers if you can get them, right around a shrimp boat.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a shrimp boat dragging and you got croakers, it's game on.
Gotcha. And there's a bunch of sharks with them, by the way.
I don't doubt that a bit.
And I've always, that's something I've always questioned you guys, and you make a living at it. You know what you're doing, but there's so many customers that freak out at the sight of a spinner shark. And let me tell you what, that is one game animal right there.
They're harder to catch than tarpon are.
Yes, they are.
Because, tarpon do backflips and cartwheels and all of those sorts of things that tarpon do, but they don't wrap 3 times, wrap the line around themselves 3 times, and then as it comes tight, try to power away. And if tarpon did what spinner sharks do, holy cow,
we'd never catch one. That's right.
But,
hey,
the benefit to the sharks is they got a soft mouth. At least you can get a hook in them.
That's true. What have you heard from the offshore guys?
A little bit of a pickup on the mangrove snapper. The guys that are chumming and chunking, and a bit, anywhere from about 75 feet out to about 130 feet, especially in the northern part of the section region, seem to be doing best. The guys down to the south are actually getting more muttons than they are mangroves right now, and the bite in there is a little bit shallower. It's 45 to 75 feet or so. Haven't had any of those fish really be monstrous yet, those muttons. But the mangroves, that's a different story. We're getting, some 8, 9, 10 pounders. The charter captains and guys that are going out there and chumming and chunking are getting those on a pretty regular basis. Gotcha.
That's sweet. I tell you, it's been pretty good here to your south offshore, but that of course is subject to change at any time. We are experiencing a ton of current down here. Are you seeing that up north?
We had a bunch of it late last week, but today, it seemed, and actually yesterday and today, it seemed like it slowed down considerably.
Okay. I wonder if that slowed your bite or if that increases your bite. What do you think?
I can tell you it pushed a lot of the tarpon out of the places that they were along the beaches. It really got them traveling. We had some pretty good pods of tarpon last week, and this week they're very thin. They're there, but they're thin along the beaches, and you're going to find them around the glass minnow pods for the most part.
Gotcha. Jimmy, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Looking forward to it, Rick.
You got it. Captain Jim Ross from the East Central section. All right, now it's time to check in Stewart in my favorite little fishing village. But first, let's have a word from our sponsors. Funkin' Wagnalls defines symmetry is the perfect balance of more than one component. Well, let me tell you, Shimano defines it as a rod and reel that you've got to have for inshore fishing. Strike Zone is loaded. They've got their last shipment of Symmetry. Symmetry is the perfect rod and reel for freshwater fishing, for inshore saltwater fishing, for catching bait for that matter, because it's so well balanced. Being out of balance is one of the biggest things that most anglers get wrong, and it costs them fish when the money's on the line. So stop by either one of the Strike Zones when you get a chance and check out the Symmetry spinners. You're going to be glad you did. Shimano is the brand you're looking for when it comes to quality fishing tackle.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat Facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Now I'm looking out my hotel window here in Pirates Cove, and I don't see the chaos. Are you out fishing, John?
No, I'm at home right now, but I got to tell you, we got some phenomenal fishing going on right here in Stewart.
Indeed you do. Tell me what you've been catching.
I got to tell you, right now, if you want to catch sailfish in Stewart, Florida, this is the time to do it. I mean, guys are catching 16 to 20 fish a trip right now, and they're not even having to work that hard to do it. You know, go out to 125 feet of water with some live baits. You know, we got pretty calm conditions. You know, that makes it even easier to see these fish. A lot of times they're right up on the surface right now. You can see their actual sails up out of the water, and that in itself is an amazing sight to see. You know, and June is prime time to experience that firsthand, and you only got to go about 6-8 miles offshore. I mean, it's amazing to me that the sail fishing is this good right now. You know, if you go out there with 24 live baits, chances are you're going to catch 5 or 8 sailfish. You know, and if you have enough baits, there's potential to get into the double digits right now.
No, I got to tell you, John, I don't know anything about that. I haven't caught one in almost an hour and a half now. So, so it's been awfully good. You're right. What else are you hearing? What are you hearing inshore?
Inshore's been pretty good. We're catching a lot of big snook right now. The tarpon fishing's been picking up, so we're starting to see a lot of juvenile tarpon and some bigger tarpon along the beaches. A lot of jack crevalles in the river and along the beaches right now. The snapper fishing's been real good on the near shore reef. So, I mean, we've got a lot of diversity right now. We've got a lot of options, and it's pretty phenomenal fishing both inshore and offshore here in Stewart, Florida right now.
John, if you had to pick of all the fisheries you're involved in and everything you do, I know you run a 12-month-a-year charter business. What's your favorite?
My favorite fish to fish for, you know, I got to tell you, it's probably the sailfish, to be honest.
Well, it's mine, so I can certainly understand that. But it is
sailfish and snook, man. Those are my 2 favorite fish to fish for, and that's why I live here in Stewart, Florida.
You've got good taste, Captain John Earhart. I'll tell you that right now. I'm with you. All right, buddy. Listen, we appreciate the great report, and please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Yes, sir. Try and leave me a few hungry sailfish for next week, all right?
No, I'm sorry. Any of them you catch that have got circle hooks in the corner of their mouth next week is just my way of saying hello.
All right, sounds good.
All right, John, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Now, let's jump on down to Alamorado. Man, I tell you what, you can't talk about fishing in Florida without mentioning Bud and Mary's and Captain Nick Stanczyk on the Broad-Minded. Nick, how are you?
We're hanging in, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Tell me how fishing is in Alamorado.
Well, the boats have been slinging the dolphin the last couple of days, so that's been good to see. And finally, a couple bigger fish, too. We did see a 48.5-pound bull on the Provider. And I think that's the biggest one we've seen at the marina this year. So that was a good one to see.
That's a real good one. That's a real good one. How about your fishing? The swordfish biting?
So besides Captain Brooks and those guys getting that giant mahi, and they've been plenty of schoolies, and I swordfished a couple trips. It's been a little slow. We did get a thresher shark one day, and we had a nice sword about 30 feet away, close to 200 pounds. But he did what swordfish do and shook his head and threw the hook and swam away. But I did some bottom fishing, and we caught We caught the biggest snow group I've caught this year personally for the year and a half was just shy of 40 pounds, so 30 and a half pounds snowy. Then we had some blue line tiles. We had one golden tile, which was a nice surprise. We don't get many goldens up on Nosara.
Son, that's a fine bottom fishing trip now. Ain't no doubt about that. You heard anything on the inside at all? How's your brother Rick doing?
I think the carbon bite's been a little tough, but I saw he put up that he caught a couple today, so hopefully it's picking back up. And I know the guy's still been getting a few snook and reds and stuff like that. Okay.
Well, Nick, that's a great report. And for all the technical difficulties we had, you sound like $1 million now, bud. It's always good to talk to you. All right, thanks to Nick Stancic for a great Alamorada report. Now let's come on around a little further west of 10,000 Islands and check in with Captain Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. How's things for you?
Things are very good, as a matter of fact. Things are very good. I'm over in Stewart catching sailfish with my grandsons. Pretty darn good Father's Day for me.
Great. That's fantastic.
What's up with you? How the fish biting?
Fish are biting. You know, the inshore bite is doing really well on all three of our major species for summertime, and the everything's really kind of surrounding, you know, our storms. You know, the afternoon thunder showers are, you know, really, this is a great opportunity if you wanted to get out after work, take a half day, let the showers, kind of afternoon showers, subside a little bit. And what that's bringing is a little bit more oxygen in the water, and it's certainly bringing some slightly cooler water temperatures. And I'm telling you, if it only drops 2-3 degrees, it's sometimes enough to really get the bite excited. And, you know, the other factor is it also brings, you know, a little bit more pronounced current out of some of the backcountry creeks. And what's happening is we're starting to see, you know, some juvenile tarpon really getting excited this summer when that happens, and the snook fishing, you know. And, you know, we've talked about snook a lot in the last few weeks with these big female fish that we've had kind of cruising the beaches and, you know, kind of staging to get offshore on the near shore wrecks. That bite's starting really to wane, and we're starting to see more of those smaller fish, those mid 20-inch to lower 30-inch class fish, which are still really good fish, but they're very abundant. It's not uncommon to go out with, you know, conditions like that after, you know, in the afternoons, and, you know, maybe get 25 fish.
Wow.
You know, and a lot of
wow.
this, yeah, a lot of this is all done on artificials too. So, you know, you don't even need live bait. So great opportunity to take a little break, you know, half day at work and get out there and make it happen. So that's kind of the inshore side. It's doing pretty good.
What are you hearing from the snapper and grouper boys?
It's doing really good. You know, I think we talked, you know, in the last couple of weeks about, you know, the ARs are doing really good for us, and with some big fish, you know, some, you know, upper teens and low 20-pound class fish have been caught, but the black grouper bite continues, and we're also getting scamps mixed in with it as well. And the crazy part is, you know, I got two different sets of captains with info on this, and, you know, they're fishing two different areas, probably 12 miles apart, very similar topography that they're fishing, which is ledges, and they're finding, you know, which is a typical pattern for us for, you know, deep water, you know, American reds, but these black grouper and scamps are concentrated on them this year for whatever reason. And it's been very, very welcomed. So I'm also hearing a couple reports that guys are catching them even a little bit closer, not necessarily the scamps, but the black groupers too. And, you know, when I say closer, typically this is probably about 80 miles outside Marco. So, I mean, it's a darn full day commitment to make this happen. As are most American red snapper trips, but you know, we're starting to hear some reports that some of these fish are starting to push even in, you know, closer to 60 miles. So you're shaving, you know, a fourth of your commute down if you can find them that shallow. So things are good. I mean, things are, you know, really starting to really fall into that summertime weather pattern, and, you know, the fish are kind of responding. The bait's showing up on the near shore wrecks and reefs. Probably another week or two, we'll probably see just hordes and hordes of Spanish mackerel, you know, some bonitas, and, you know, probably the kings will return as well. So things are shaping up pretty good for summer. That's for sure.
Good deal. Good deal. Outstanding report, Steve. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Oh, I can't wait, Rick.
Thank you, buddy. Captain Steve Dahl telling us about the 10,000 islands. Let's come up into the Southwest region and find out what Greg Stamper's got to say about that. Greg, you catching them?
Yes, Rick. Absolutely. The snook bite this entire week has been fantastic. I mean, we have lots of options. You have our nearshore wrecks and our reefs where they kind of hang out around some of those little pieces that have a little bit more relief on them. We have our beach fish if it's not blowing too hard and it's coming from the east, northeast, southeast. Anglers, even on foot, can go out there and hammer those guys. You'll see lots of those. And in our back bays, it's been a lot of big snook all week. Kind of weird because the ones on the beaches are loving the artificials and the white baits. If you can find good white bait right now, most of ours is pretty small in my neck of the woods, but in the back bays, cut bait form has just been fantastic. We waxed them all week. When we did fish for them on cut ladyfish for the most part. And honestly, Rick, if it could be any better, I don't think it could right now for the snook.
Man, I tell you, that's crazy. I mean, it just it's really been a good summer so far all around the state. And down in your neck of the woods, you and Steve, snook's been the deal, hasn't it?
It's been one of the deals, and a part of that is a good water quality product that we've had right now. We haven't had any of these massive red tides or bad water quality issues. The water's clean, and the fish are really active. The other fish that I've been doing a lot of this week is these bigger tarpon that are, anywhere from 70, 80 up to maybe 120 or so. Those same fish are off our beaches. We've been getting them in as shallow as 6-7 feet of water, literally right off of the beaches from Bonita all the way up through Sanibel. I mean, there's times where we're fighting a fish and I'm waving people that are wading in the water, having a good time, like, you need to get on back because this thing's coming through here.
I got a hot one coming your way. Yep.
Yeah, like, you need to get out of the water until this thing goes by. It's not the fish I'm worried about, it's the line getting them,
Yep. The line getting them, and sometimes those big uglies start tracking those tarpon too, and they we don't want them messing with the people either.
You got that right. Now, other than that, the offshore guys have just been wrecking these red snapper. That's just continuing. An interesting thing that happened this last week, though, is that they did have to get out there a little bit further to get those good ones. So I think there's been some pressure on them. Those big fish are still out there in that 120 plus, give or take 120 plus foot range. And then those guys who are getting out there much further, like 150, 160, 170, Rick, are just absolutely destroying them, along with gags and everything else.
Greg, this is another example of us learning what our pressure really does do. It seems like, and obviously we've got a huge red snapper population. It's far healthier than what we thought just a short while ago. But you start fishing on them a while, you can tell the change in the pressure within a week or two, can't you?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're getting pushed out a little bit more. And I don't know if it's just that they're just going out further because they know that the guys are catching really nice ones out there. I mean, I saw some fish this week, Rick, that were probably 25 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the guys that are going out there deep. The guys who kind of went, skinny water, 110, whatever. Those fish were legal, but not like the offshore dudes who went out there and really, really put their time in.
Yep. All right. Fantastic. Cap, we appreciate your report as always. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
You got it, Rick. Always look forward to it. You have a great week. Catch them up in tight lines.
Thanks, Greg. You too. Captain Greg Stamper of Snook Stamp Charters. Let's pull up into the West Central and find out what Captain Ray Markham's up to. How about it, Raymond?
I'm hanging in there, Captain. How's everything going with y'all?
Well, I said a little prayer for you that your red tide would go away. Is it gone?
I wish I could say yes, but no.
Is it getting worse?
Can't really say it's getting any worse per se. It's just moving.
I got you.
there's areas that are very low concentrations, there's medium concentrations, and there's high concentrations. It seems around the Piney Point area and the place where we had that other gypsum stack kind of spill or whatever it was over there that dumped, I don't know how many million gallons of pollutants in the water is where we have the highest concentrations. They say it's not related, but I'm crying BS. But anyway, it's like I'm starting my days early because the water temperature is really climbing. We've had a couple of days of some rain, and it's really scattered. Even though they're telling us it's got 50% chance. You go out fish, you're all day on the water. It doesn't rain at all. You're sitting at home in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden you hear thunder and lightning, and everything kind of the sky breaks open.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I've been trying to get on the water by 6 o'clock or so most mornings, and I guess thank goodness for my sunglasses that I use it super early when I'm tarpon fishing or when I'm out real early in overcast days like we've had, because it's been a savior. I'm using a Costa model, and I want to say they're called Sunrise. I'm not positive, but they're really bright and illuminate everything and remove the glare. And especially when these days we've got cloudy, overcast skies, you absolutely have to have that because you can't sight fish without it. I'm trying to fish in lee of mangrove islands and things like that because we've got winds lately for the last week or so that have been picking up a little bit that are kind of stirring up the water a little, and trying to get in the lee of those places. You'll find a little bit calmer water and some water that's a little cleaner. But a lot of places we've had to do a lot of looking. We're finding fair numbers of trout, nothing that I would normally say is average,
Mm-hmm.
but fair numbers of trout. Redfish are pretty scattered. We've had some decent snook. And I know a lot of the passes that were holding snook a month ago are seeing very few snook by comparison. Where they're going, I'm not sure. I got a feeling they're probably either moving way north because they're telling us now that they're finding red tide issues up as far north as Dunedin, and even approaching Tarpon Springs on the outside, on the Gulf side. But the upper portion of Tampa Bay, pretty much from the middle part of Tampa Bay north, seems to be clear. So that may be my day after tomorrow's trip. Tomorrow's trip's going to be kind of on the south end. I'm going to work some of the fresh water coming in on the incoming tide and hope for the best for that. But the guys that are fishing offshore are just absolutely having a blast, tearing up big jag grouper and red snapper in the midst of all the other snappers. I mean, we're coming up on full moon. I believe it's, when is that? I think it's next. Is it next week?
No, it's Friday.
This Friday,
right.
Yeah. And so, I know that a lot of guys are doing the long trips out 39, 48 hours on some of the party boats, and they're fishing all night. The guys that are doing the night stuff, they're picking up a lot of mangrove snapper. In a little bit, they're getting all the other snappers involved, so that it's pretty much every snapper that swims in these waters they're catching, and they're bringing back just a boatload of fish.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
You guys are very fortunate over there. You get such a big long snapper season now. So, Ray, I hope the red tide will finally go away. It seems to be concentrated pretty much in your area. They're not seeing it back down south. And I think if we don't get too much rain, maybe if it doesn't get, just hope it doesn't get too hot with too much rain and we don't see more of it. We'll see what happens. But right now, your advice is if you're going to fish in your area for snook and reds and trout, to fish north of Tampa Bay. Is that right?
Either the north end of Tampa Bay or north of Tampa Bay if you're fishing the coastal areas.
Gotcha.
That's what I would say. All right.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ray. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Yeah, buddy.
All right.
I'll be here coughing and wheezing.
Captain Ray Markham. Our thanks to Captain Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Ray, of course, this week and all of our action spotters are brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. By Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids, you need to check out youngboats.com. And of course, as always, Nosara Paradise Fishing. Gosh, we have a lot of fun with Craig Sutton. He's a great sponsor, and he sure gets me my billfish fix every week. Let's swing on up into the Big Bend and check in with our buddy William Toney. William, how are you?
We're doing good, man. It's been a little rainy, a little windy over here.
Yeah? You got a little blow from that storm, did you?
Yeah, it was just kind of, if you lived in Florida long enough, you know what tropical weather feels like. And that's kind of what we've been having. So, the good thing about it, I fished this whole past week, and every day it was nice and cool out there. We didn't get any hard rain. We had some mild sprinkles. It was kind of breezy and overcast, which, you couldn't ask for better types of fishing weather for this time of year, because the alternative is slick, calm, and hot.
Yep. I dealt with slick, calm, and hot today, and it's still hot, and it's still slick, calm.
But one thing I will tell you it did do, and you could read it, my report I put in with the Florida Sportsman online Big Bend, weekend forecast, is the trout bite's been really good, up inshore. Normally this time of year, they'll move out in that deeper water, 8 to 12 feet. So we're still getting them in about 3 to 5 feet in big bays and areas near deep water. Some of the key spots have been here on my side have been down in Chesawisca Bay, and then out there in front of the Fort Island Beach and Crystal River. And also, don't forget those spoil banks off the old Florida Power Plant, which is Duke Energy now, and that's near deep water. But the dredge area and old fill banks and everything, that's where we're getting some trout there. And then up toward 11 Prong up in Waukesasa Bay.
Okay, that don't sound bad. What are you hearing from offshore?
Well, offshore, one of our local captains, Chris Wilkins, he has braved it and gone out. Now, he hasn't been able to get out toward the red snapper, but he's been getting really quick gag grouper limits, anywhere from 18 to 25 feet, using live pinfish and frozen threadfin and Spanish sardines down on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even told me he's had a couple trips where they've had them all the way up on the surface, in 20 foot of water, and catching nice ones and throwing keepers back and getting back in before everybody gets beat up and loses their breakfast.
Yeah, I know about that. I tell you what, that can get pretty nasty out in that shallow water in a hurry over in the Gulf. I promise you that. Well, William, that sounds like an absolutely fantastic report. Now, when does scalloping open for you?
All right. Now, our big thing is going to be July 1st is opening day for our scallop season. And I haven't been in the water yet myself, but preliminary reports say it's better than last year.
Good.
I've had a couple people going out there scouting around and looking, and they're finding them generally between Homosassa and Crystal River and due west of the St. Martin's Keys area over there. So, it's going to be a busy weekend and everything. And so, folks just need to understand, getting to the ramp early is going to be best. But even then, sometimes it's just going to have to just kick back, take your time, make sure your boat's packed and ready, and, just take your turn at the ramp and let everybody do their thing and be nice to each other. It's the big deal. But also, it's also going to add this. Now, I have heard through the grapevine that enforcement is going to be really heavy. So, if you're not familiar with the regulations or your boat's not, totally safe with all your gear and equipment, or you feel you got to get out there and drink the whole day, that's probably not a good idea.
Nope. BUI is certainly not a good idea. But I got to tell you, I had a first the other day. We had a Marine Patrol officer jump on my boat, And he's going through all this stuff and all of a sudden I looked and I said, I'm sorry, would you move a second? There was a sailfish eating my outrigger bait. It was cool. He was so nice. He said, let me get out of your way. Let me get out of your way. You know, oh, this is cool. I mean, it was a lot of fun. They were very nice, but people need to be prepared to get boarded, and that is a good thing, not a bad thing. And William, I can't thank you enough for preaching patience at the boat ramp. Take that time that you're waiting to launch to get your boat completely ready. So when it's your turn, it's your turn. You pull up, you drop it in, and you go. Thank you, Cap. As always, we appreciate it.
Hey, Rick, one last quick thing.
Yeah, man.
You just dated yourself when you said Marine Patrol because it's FWC now.
I know.
But I remember Marine Patrol days too. You know, the old Marine, and I still use the same term. But, you know, it's funny when you said that Marine Patrol. It just brought up the old, it almost looked like the state trooper cars out there.
You busted me. You're right. Oh, by the way, the reason I sound like an old guy is because I am one, all right? That might be why. Thank you, William.
Hey, good talking to you, Rick. We'll talk at you next week.
Talk to you next week. Captain William Toney from the Homosassa area. Hey, everybody's talking about the same thing tonight, the water heating up. Well, what all the great fish do when the water heats up? They go deep. That's why the DOA Terrorize is a must-have for your tackle box. I don't care if it's a speckled perch getting as deep as he can under a lily pad, or if it's a big fish, a tarpon trying to nudge something off those pylons down at the bottom of the river. A Terrorize can get to it, and DOA makes the size that can get to the fish you're looking for. That bright eye shining at them, they just can't turn it down. It's really unfair to use one. Hey, maybe that's why DOA is called the unfair advantage. All right, let's get to it. Our thanks to William Toney for a great Big Bend report. Now we're going to pull into Northwest Florida where they've had that nasty tropical storm to deal with. Kevin, I sure hope nothing of your stuff got broke.
No, nothing got broke except a little bit of my enthusiasm for going snapper fishing. It got curbed real quick.
Yep, I can understand that. Have you been at all?
Yes, sir. We got out a little bit before the storm was coming, and the days were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we've just been catching our snapper. They've all been those sizes that we like. No great big sows. We got in some real nice kingfish on our flat lines last couple days out. So been very productive. I mean, if we can get out there, we can catch fish.
That's excellent. That's great news. I tell you what are you seeing any grouper with them or not much to it?
Not as many grouper this last few days as earlier in the week. One trip we got 16 combination of reds and gags.
Ooh, that's good.
Which was a great day. And right now we're getting, 4s and 5s. Nothing to write home about, as I always say. But the scamps are cooperating. We're getting 1 or 2 scamps a trip, so that's making it nice too.
That does indeed make it nice. Did you hear about that red snapper they caught off Destin the other day?
I did not hear the one they caught off Destin, but I heard the one they got off Mexico Beach on opening day.
How big was that one?
We haven't got an official weight on it, but it's definitely in the mid-30s.
They got a 4110 off of Destin the other day.
Wow.
That's a monster. That old girl's been around a long time. And, oh, by the way, if I've got an 8-pounder and you've got a 41, we ain't trading.
No, we're not. No, we're not. I understand that. Yeah, I've got some pictures of the big one that was caught off Mexico Beach, and we've definitely taken a look at that, and she's got some H.
Yep, no doubt. They get all old, beat up, gnarly looking. Those big snapper are funny to look at. Captain Kevin, as always, we appreciate
snapper, she's beautiful, but look even better swimming away.
Yeah, they do. Cap, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Oh, we'll be out next week. We'll be back talking to you next week. Looks like we've got a good stretch of weather coming up, so we'll have some good reports for you.
Good for you. Thanks, Cap. Our thanks to Kevin Lanier for a great Northwest report. Now, you can't leave Florida without going through the Panhandle. That's where Captain Tyler Massey is large and in charge of all the red snapper in the Panhandle. How you doing, Cap?
We're doing good, Rick. How are you guys?
Good. How's your snapper season going?
Oh, it's been going great so far. The fish have been biting, easy limits, and, it's been, pretty good. We have, definitely some challenges. Just while we're fishing, it's mainly like, sharks, dolphins, and triggerfish. That's our biggest limiting factor any day that we're out there, is the other things that you have to deal with, on the spot. So, but the fishing's been good. We've just been having a few obstacles, have to bounce around a little bit to pick up our fish, but fishing's been good overall.
Good deal. Good. Any pelagics yet? Anybody been way off?
Yeah, it's been nothing too consistent. The guys that are hitting the rigs, the oil rigs fishing, they're catching blue marlins and yellowfin tuna is pretty good. The trolling, in a little closer, the day trip trolling hasn't been as good, but wahoo's been the most consistent thing. Fishing around our edge, we call it, or the ridge out there. It's in about 220 foot of water. Just mainly trolling high speeds up and down that area. And it's been, producing a couple fish a trip. So that's been the most consistent trolling thing, as far as the day trip goes.
Super. You hearing anything from inshore?
Yeah, so inshore fishing's been good also. Flounder fishing is picking up just a little bit. We're catching some flounder on using live bait around the bridge pilings and that kind of stuff, rock piles around our rock jetties in the past. Any little bit deeper structure in our bay is going to have some flounder on it. And also, redfish are biting around the boat docks and the intercoastal waterway, Santa Rosa Sound, and that's either using something like a gulp on a jig head is what I like to use. It's easy, fishes the dock real easy, or a live shrimp on like a Carolina rig.
Tyler, let me ask you a question. Of all the fisheries that you're involved in, and I know you fish 12 months a year in your business, what's your favorite? What's your favorite fish to fish for? So,
man, I really do love dock fishing for redfish, especially with customers. It's something I have a lot of confidence in. A lot of guys around here don't. I know that if I fish enough docks, I'm going to find them somewhere. They're always going to be somewhere. And it's just pretty awesome. You tell a customer to pitch that bait up here under the dock, and it lands in the water, and then all of a sudden it just takes off to the back of the dock. That's a lot of fun for me, with customers. It's really rewarding once we find a dock with some fish on it and they have a good time.
What's your favorite bait to throw under a dock?
So, when we allow it, a live shrimp is going to get bit. If there's redfish there, the pinfish will tear us up sometimes, though. If the customer is good throwing artificials, a gulp, like I said, a gulp on a jig head, but any kind of fish bait, whether it's a finger mullet, a bull minnow, live shrimp, scale sardine, any of that kind of stuff under the dock is going to get you a bite.
Gotcha. That's a great report. Tyler, thank you so much, buddy. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yep, I'll be here.
Captain Tyler Massey from out in the Panhandle giving us the wrap-up report for tonight. Well, it's been funny this week. It's been, what part of the state are you in? Up in Jacksonville, too much westerly wind. Now, that's off of that tropical storm that pushed on up north, so that's understandable. But the west wind, they've had a strong current. They've had muddy water. It has not been good. You come down into the east central area with Captain Jim Ross. They've had challenges of their own. They're catching some dolphin. They're not doing great with them. Inshore, the snook have been pretty good. That's been their saving grace, is catching snook and sea trout. Down in Stewart, Captain John Earhart, he couldn't quit talking about the sailfish. I've held out for years that June was a better month for sailfish than January down in South Florida, and it certainly has been true this year. I have seen several double-digit catches and had some very good days myself. You get further down, and it seems like we got a late run of mahi going. Alan Sherman reported lots of mahi. Nick Stancic, lots of mahi up to 48 pounds. And, of course, he's been sword fishing, and there's always action for him doing that. But he's actually done a little bit of deep dropping, catching blue line and even golden tiles. Golden tile, not real common fish in the Keys, so that's quite interesting. I tell you what, I think we ought to drop Steve Dahl and Greg Stamper. No, I'm just kidding, because their fishing's always good. And that section of Southwest Florida, you get around that Sanibel 10,000 Islands, and gosh, it seems like there's always snook and tarpon to be caught. I guess the downer of the week came from the Northeast and the West Central, where Captain Ray Markham said the red tide's giving him fits. His advice, fish either North Tampa Bay or north of Tampa Bay if you want to stay out of the red tide and get some good snook action. Captain William Toney up in Homosassa, same thing. They're seeing snook. They're not seeing red tide, but they are seeing trout and they are seeing snook, and they've had some pretty good fishing. And, of course, everybody that's running out in the Gulf for red snapper, now that storm's passed, seems like they're getting a little pressure. You might have to move around a little bit, but limits are still pretty easy. Captain Tyler Massey wrapped it up with a great report on the red snapper. He said they're doing fine out there on them, and they're seeing a few marlin and tuna out at the rigs for the boats that can reach that far. So it's been a busy week of fishing in Florida. It should be. It's June. It's one of my favorite months to fish, and I hope that you're getting out and taking advantage of it too. Hey, listen, we hope you enjoy the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. We need you to help us out. We need you to subscribe. We need you to rate us. Tell us how we can improve it. If you've got a question for any of our podcasters, just put it on the Florida Sportsman Facebook or email me personally at rick@floridasportsman.com. We'll be glad to find out. Maybe you're making a trip down to the Keys. You want to know what's biting? Nickel, let us know. Hey, this week and every week, the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast has been brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? We think you ought to check out youngboats.com. Hey, until next week, for Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we'll see you on the rip.